Today I'm going to talk about the topic of tithes and offerings. It has been said by many, show me a man's checkbook and I'll show him where his heart is, or some other variation to the statement. Well, this is so true. Our Creator set up his system of tithes and offerings to test us and to prove us, just as he did with so many of his instructions. In Leviticus 27 we read, "And all of the tithe, or 10% of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the trees, is Yahweh's. It is holy to Yahweh. And if a man wants to redeem any of his tithes, he shall add a fifth part, or 20% to it." He is saying that if you want to hold back the prize bull for your herd, then you need to add 20% of its value to it and give that to the priest, to the Levites. Verse 32, "And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even of whatsoever passes under the rod, the 10th shall be holy to Yahweh." Back then it was every 10th animal. You could not choose the best 9 and give him the inferior stock. You just, whichever 10th one came through the line, that was the one that was given to him. It was an agricultural culture, so the tithes were produce and the livestock. Today people work for a paycheck, so it's much simpler. We are to tithe 10% of our increase. If your increase is 0, then your tithes would be 0. If it's $1 million, then you'd be 10% of $1 million. I'm not going to get into all of the specifics of this because not much of it is relevant because of where we're at in time. I have mentioned in several of these videos that it has been declared that we are in the 7th year annual Sabbath, so the increase from our labor should be 0 anyway. You should be living off of the storehouse of what He has blessed you with the last year and the 6th year. This is not the subject of this video though, and I have spoken on this subject in other videos, so I want to keep going with today's subject. But even with no income, we are still commanded to not show up before Him empty 3 times a year at His 3 feasts. We're still commanded to bring forth the offerings. There are still offerings that are to be brought to Him, and many still have storehouses of His blessings from previous years as well. Plus back then when there were temple taxes that were commanded for the families to bring and such. I'm not going to go into the details of all of this because of where we're at in time. We're in a different situation with Yeshua returning next year and with the world getting ready to come unraveled. One thing that is for sure is that the command to give tithes and offerings has not gone away. Some might even have increase coming in from their previous year's work or investments and such that they would need to tithe on. In Malachi 3, our Creator gives us a prophecy for today, for the day that we're in. At the end of chapter 2, He is talking about the abominations done in our midst and how people are scoffing at His judgments, asking where His judgment is while their abominations flourish. Then He says in 3 verse 1, "Behold, I will send my messenger to prepare the way before me, and Yahweh will seek you, and will suddenly come to His temple. The messenger of the covenant whom I delight will come to you, says Yahweh of hosts. Who will receive him in the day of his coming? Who will stand when he appears? Because he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap." This is yet another prophecy that is being fulfilled right before our eyes. Look at what He has been restoring with things like the 7th year Sabbath and everything else to test our resolve, to see if you will hearken to Him as He restores His truth. He has sent me to refine those who will turn to Him and to bring forth the measuring rod. So far the witness against most of you is not proving very good because so few of you are hearkening. Listen to the videos on this site and try to say to yourself that they are not a perfect match to verses like these, and today more is being added in regards to tithing and offerings. The refiner's edge just keeps getting sharper. In verse 3, "And he will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver, and he will purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer to Yahweh an offering in righteousness. Then the offerings of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasant to Yahweh, as in the days of old and as in the former years." He is saying that he is calling a people to him, and their offerings are going to be pleasant to him. He's asking you to be of this number. He is crying out to you to return to him and to become one of his people. Who will stand with his servant that he has sent? Who will receive him? The Hebrew word that I translated in this verses as receive more accurately translates as sustain, but can't imagine the scoffers if I use the word sustain there. Then everybody see it's all about the money. Verse 5, judgment will come to you, and there will be a swift witness against the sorcerers and against the adulterers and against the false promisers and against those that oppress the hireling of his wages and the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right. And do not fear me, says Yahweh of hosts. I have been sent as a witness against the scattered nations of Israel and against mankind. Who of you is hearkening to his witness? There are so few, it is incredible. One scoffer said yesterday that his witness is not going to appear on YouTube. Really? What other medium has proven more explosive in the world today? And what other medium would his servant use other than a free medium when he has no resources to cry aloud in any other way? And until today, I've never asked anybody else to put any money forward for the cry either. But I've certainly been crying out for everybody to cry aloud and spare not. If any people had hearkened in the beginning and put forth their efforts and their money with his servant, the truth would have been broadcasted to the entire globe by now. But there has been no fear, and people do not want to hear the truth. And they don't fear being wrong. They don't fear continuing to promote their lies either. Now today, yet another decree and another challenge is being sent forth. He goes on to say in verse 6, because I, Yahweh, do not change. I will not make an end of the children of Jacob. He is calling a remnant to return to him. Verse 7, from the days of your fathers you have gone away from my ordinances, and you have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you, says Yahweh of hosts. But you ask, what should we return to? It's like today, people can't see their error. They think they're following him. Folks, this is serious business. For 9 months now, your Creator has sent a prophet to you to cry out to you to return to his path, as was prophesied that he would. In these verses, he is specifically pointing out tithes and offerings. He says if you will return to his ordinances, then he will not make an end of you. If you do, his wrath will not consume you, and he will deliver you. And if you don't, you are going to be consumed. He has restored many truths to put you to the test. In these verses, he's adding tithes and offerings to the mix. His tithes and offerings are commandments. They are not suggestions. The next verse, he says in verse 8, because you have stolen from Elohim, you have stolen from me, he says. But you say, how have we stolen from you, Elohim? His answer, in tithes and offerings. In verse 9, therefore I will curse you with a bitter curse, because you and all the people have stolen from me. You might be thinking, how have all of the people stolen from him? The answer lies in who we were supposed to be tithing to. We were supposed to be tithing to his Levitical system, but we forsook his system. His people were scattered, and the Levites who we were to tithe to were scattered as well. Is this his fault? If it's his fault, then why is he sending his wrath upon the earth, and primarily upon the scattered nations of Israel, who are going to receive a double portion? No, it is our fault. We forsook his ways. We did not seek him in truth. He would have restored the priesthood if we had. And I'm not talking about the sacrificial system. Yeshua was the replacement for that system. He would have restored the tribes of Israel, and this would have included the Levites, and his tithes and offerings would have been restored. And there would have been somebody to tithe to. And his truth would have been lived in the lives of his people. Of course, the offerings would no longer be based on the sacrificial system like they were back then, but they would be brought to a place where he has placed his name. Today, you need to find out where he has placed his name and who's bearing his name. I spoke of yesterday that there is also a second tithe, or a second 10% that we're supposed to set aside for the 3 pilgrimage feasts each year, along with our other offerings. And of course, the second tithe is for us to enjoy at the feast. I mentioned that yesterday. And we're supposed to set aside a third tithe every third year for the poor and the needy as well. But I'm not going to go into all of these details either, because again, where we're at is a crunch time in time. The Levitical system was to do Elohim service. Each of you needs to find out who is doing his service this day and hearken to his instructions for your offerings and tithes if you have them, of course, from previous years and stuff. And I'm not talking about sending them into me. I'll expand as we go forward. He's looking for an offering of righteousness, as I read back there in verse 3. And he's looking for us to put forth our resources for his work to be accomplished. I am just one man. If you sent your money into me, there is no way that I could do what needs to be done by myself. Matthew recorded Yeshua saying to the Pharisees that they tithed on even the mint and the cumin, and he said to them that they should have done these things. They even broke off 10% of their spices, and Yeshua validated that this should be done. So the question is, what do we do today with our tithes and offerings, since he is commanding us to step up with them? I have spoken in previous videos that he has showed me that I am a descendant of the tribe of Levi, yet I have no donate here button on the website like all of Satan's servants do. Yet billions flow into these donate here buttons to help spread Satan's lies. What I have announced, though, is that we are supposed to shout and cry aloud and spare not. Since we're in the 7th year Sabbath, one thing that people have is time, even if you have no money. I marvel at how even after all of my cries for people to shout and to cry aloud and spare not, how nearly everyone who has come to this channel continues to do their own thing. Most even agree that we're in the end, yet they continue in the swill. Some even say that they believe with all of their heart that what I speak is from Elohim, yet they do nothing and keep promoting meaningless false ministries or things that are of no importance to where we're at in time. The world is about ready to come unglued, and people keep talking about things like Elhanan or Nibiru. Who cares? It does not matter, because wormwood is coming either way. And wormwood is just one part of his coming wrath. Who cares if Nibiru is actually wormwood? What matters is the truth that will deliver people. People are caught up in the coming destruction, but not caught up in that which would deliver them. I see people caught up in the Star of David, or what they think this verse says or that verse says. People are focused on all sorts of conspiracy theories and thousands of distractions. It's amazing what the swill that's out there. And they are all Satan's distractions to keep you from focusing on the truth that would deliver you. Yahweh has sent his prophet to plead with the people to return to his narrow path and to cry aloud to warn others. We talked about this in Ezekiel. We're actually told their blood will be on our hands if we don't. Join in with him and his servant and stop going your own way, doing your own thing, serving him how you feel you should serve him. If you think that I'm not his prophet, what do you base your determination on? One person wrote me yesterday and said that I am not the witness because I have declared that Saul of Tarsus is false and the abomination of desolation. This is not true. I have not declared this. Our Creator has declared that Saul is false and that he is the abomination of desolation. And his word backs this claim up. I am merely his messenger. And it is the same word that declares that I am his servant. Why is his word not good enough for you guys? I'm telling you that at this time he is telling those who will return to him to put their money where their mouth is. He is saying that it is time to use your offerings to cry aloud and spare not if you have them. And if you do not have anything physical to offer, do what you can by offering your services, your time to put forth what he's restoring. And I'm not talking about continuing in your own ministries. Join in with what he's doing. Amazing how many people think that they have the truth there and don't even have the commandments. Don't know simple things about the feast and everything, but I had so many people write me, well, he's working, I see he's working through you, but he's working through me too. Well, then why is it that you keep putting forth all the lies and all the false teachings? If I am not of the tribe of Levi and if I am not his prophet, then I suggest that you find out who you need to send your tithes and offerings to, because this passage in Malachi is for right now. And of course, it's always been the case, or always to tithe, but like I said, the Levitical system was not in place. If you believe we're in the end, you have to believe that someone's going to come forth with this claim. And if you're sending your tithes and your offerings to one of Satan's many servants, helping them spread lies, woe to you. I just read that he is sending his curses because people have stolen from him. This is not the only reason why he is sending them, but here in Malachi, he makes the point to make sure that he tells us that the tithes and the offerings are a big part of the reason. Folks, this is real. It's not about me, it's about what he is restoring. I know of one man in Australia who has a portable billboard that he and his family move around with the www.repairingthebreach.info website on it and a message that Yeshua is returning next year. I know of another man in the UK who makes DVDs of the warning messages that our Creator has given, and he distributes them, and he sends emails to the followers of the false prophets. It's a great idea too, and it took some time. It took some time for him to, and of course it set him up for tons of slander from these people because there's a backlash. Who cares? And this man certainly doesn't care. He's just hoping that one, he wrote me, just one from his endeavors would turn to the truth. And that's a servant's heart. These men are serving our Creator and offering themselves up to him in doing so. They believe his word and are acting on that belief. There is absolutely zero chance that Elohim was going to allow someone other than his true servant to bring forth his sign. I've spoken about in several of these videos, the Ezekiel 24 sign. If you cannot believe this, then I cannot help you. You're simply calling your Creator a liar. He said when this sign comes forward, you can know it's from him. I don't know how much, plus he's given so much more proof, even what he's given today. These passages, I didn't know these passages were here. I set out to talk about tithes and offerings and had no idea. I was going to go into Malachi, verse 3, where it talks about it, but I didn't know back in verse 1 where it started, that it's about his messenger would come forth with this. And I didn't know a lot of the things back there in the first, leading up to it even. So when I got into it, I was like, wow. And just another prophecy match, which I don't know how many of you need. As I said, if I'm not his servant, then I suggest that you find him quickly and start offering up your offerings in what he is telling you to do with them. These verses in Malachi make this pretty clear, unless you don't believe them either. He goes on in verse 10, bring you all of the tithes into the storehouse, and there will be food in my house. I beseech you to test me on this, says Yahweh of hosts, to see if I will not open wide the windows of heaven to you, or fail to pour out blessings accordingly. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and I will not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither cast the fruit of the vine from your fields, says Yahweh of hosts, because all of my people will be blessed in the land my desire, says Yahweh of hosts. It sounds like it is going to be a good thing to be called his people by him. I don't think I want to be not found bearing his name. I want to interject something else here. Do any of you really think that you will be covered by his son's blood if you continue to steal from him after hearing this today? In order for his son's blood to be applied on your behalf, you have to repent from your ways and turn to his ways. And you have to turn to his ways if you will not even, I don't know how somebody says, excuse me, I'm sorry, how have you turned to his ways if you will not even tithe to him and bring an offering to him? And tithes and offerings are commanded. So again, you better find out who to tithe to and not choose for yourself. You better let his word define who is his servant. Are you really his people if you pay your tithes to whomever you want, or to Satan's ministries, as so many of you are doing? I read yesterday to you where he tells us where to bring his tithes and offerings. They are to be brought to a place of his choosing, and today this is to shout to his battle cry. If you think this is not a place of his choosing, then obviously you have your head deeply buried in the sand, and you certainly haven't listened to very many of these videos, because it is clear what he's restoring. It's right down the line with his word. I mean, I'm amazed by it each day, how it just keeps adding up, one scripture to the next. I'm like, how could it be possible, and how could there be so much proof? But it's right there. For many of you, it's too much for you to even cover your heads or stop eating the bread of men as he has commanded you to do. So I'm sure this tithing, this what I'm being said today, is going to really be received well by you. This is not a game, people. His wrath is at the door. He then goes on with some more rebuke in verse 13. Your words have been obstinate against me, says Yahweh. Yet you say, how have we spoken against you? You have said it is wrong to do Elohim's works. And what profit is it to keep his ordinances or guard his charge? You walk in shame before Yahweh of hosts. And this is his work that we're talking about today. The shout is his work. And you should have been amazed in the last few days, the videos and stuff about how so many of these prophecies are talking about shouting at this time. Even with what's called the memorial of trumpets that people refer to falsely as the Feast of Trumpets. When it's a day of acclamations or a day of shouts, and how that ties in with the other prophecies. It's awesome what he's showing us. In verse 15, yes, you call the proud blessed. They that do wicked are set up. Yes, they that tempt Elohim and think that they will escape, think they'll be delivered. There are some strong warnings in these passages for those of you who know better than he does. There are so many who think that they will be delivered, yet they reject the truth that would cause them to be delivered. How can this be? This willful ignorance. They are proud and arrogant, yet they think that they are blessed. They think that because they have their religion, that they are in his will, yet they reject his instructions. They reject his word. But who does he say will be delivered? Will it be the proud who insist on telling him how it is or how they will serve him? In verse 16 we read, Then a man that feared Yahweh spoke with his fellows, and they hearkened to Yahweh and obeyed his voice. This is who will be delivered. And they were written in the book of record before him with them that feared Yahweh and valued or regarded his name. And they will be mine, says Yahweh of hosts. In that day they will be my wealth, and I will spare them as a man spares his own children that he has served. Turn and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serves Elohim and him that serves him not. Verse 18 is telling you to discern who serves Elohim and who does not. And very important in relation to the tithing. It said, what's directly in these verses about tithing? Is this not what I just challenged you to do earlier? Did I not tell you that if you do not think that I am his servant, that you had better find who is and ask them what to do with your tithes and offerings? But if I am his servant, you had better hearken to what he is saying through me. He said that he would put his words in his servant's mouth. I have made some bold claims because I have declared that he has put his words in my mouth. Why won't you believe his word that is backing me up? I do not make this claim without proof of his word. It would be insanity. I think to say the things I'm saying, to say I'm speaking for him, do you don't think I know what the verses say about the person who does this and claims to be his prophet and does not speak his word? You listen to this and don't think that I don't fear him? It's just I can't deny the overwhelming proof, and I'm amazed. I'm just flabbergasted at how the 23,000 video views that have been on this site, which is next to nothing, but still there's 2 people that I spoke of that I know. Actually, there's one more that I know of that are putting forth the videos on their sites. And I just can't, I don't know how you can deny all the proof he's given. The wicked and adulterous people, there's no doubt. The works that he has sent me to declare testify that he has sent me as well. Look at the works on the site and see how they're just right down the line, match all of these prophecies by all of the prophets. And like I said, again, another one today. How can this be, people? It's just sad. Moving on to chapter 4, verse 1. For behold, the day comes when all of the proud will burn in an oven. Yes, all that do wickedly shall be straw, and the day that comes will burn them up, says Yahweh of hosts. And I will leave them neither root nor branch. And so you better find out who the wicked are, because the day is fast approaching. Man's time of self-rule is about up. I have been sent to proclaim this day. And what am I asking you to do with your offerings? Line my pockets like all of Satan's servants are doing? No, I'm telling you to put your resources forth to sound the alarm and to cry out, to warn people. It's time to shout aloud. The prophecies prove this. Verse 2, but to you that fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will arise with healing in his wings, and you will go forth and grow up as the calves of the stalls. He's going to nurture you and feed you and care for you. Wow, the millennium is going to be awesome. Rise up so that he will deliver you so that you can be a part of it. You imagine what it's going to be like to meet Yeshua and the other saints face to face? Verse 3, and you will trample the wicked because they will be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I will do this, says Yahweh of hosts. Can you imagine a world where evil is purged out? It is going to be incredible. Satan and his cronies will be bound, and the lion will lay down with the lamb, and you will have nothing to fear for your children playing by the asp's den and stuff. Verse 4, remember the Torah of Moses my servant, which I commanded him in Horeb for all of Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming in the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. And he will turn the hearts of your fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. He has sent me in the spirit of Elijah to cry out for you, to make straight your paths, and to turn your hearts to the hearts of the patriarchs, and they will turn their hearts to you, and you will be Elohim's children, as they are his children. It is all about the family business, building his family. Just as John the Baptist was sent forth in the spirit of Elijah, so am I. I am telling you to turn back to his Torah and to his statutes and judgments, and let it be your narrow path that will lead you to eternal life in his family. If you think that these videos that these verses about tithes and offerings in Malachi do not apply to right now, you are seriously deceived. They were still religiously tithing when John the Baptist came to announce Yeshua's first arrival on the scene. Yeshua testified to this, so it's certainly not talking about back then. It's talking about now. As I said, the tithing part will be less significant anyway because it is the seventh year Sabbath, yet he included it in this passage for a reason. This is because you have not tithed to his work in the past. His work has not been made manifest for a long time. If it is in your storehouse, then I suggest that you put it in his storehouse and let him be your storehouse, because your storehouses are going to be burnt up anyway, so you're going to need his provision. So I suggest that you turn to him, as it said in those verses, and he will turn to you. And for you scoffers, as I said, I'm not talking about sending it to me. I'm talking about it being used to cry it aloud. As I have spoken in other segments, his truth is not going to go out by the power of men anyway, but by his Spirit. Yet he is telling those who will come to him to cry aloud and spare not, to join in with him. He is still telling us to engage in what he is doing. As I said at the end of yesterday's video, if you are waiting for the physical signs to prove that I am his servant because his word is not good enough for you, then you are not going to like the signs when they come, and you do not have much longer to wait for them. And at that time, your tithes and your offerings will be worth less than toilet paper anyway. You will cast your gold in the streets and cry out for the rocks to fall on you, and you will not be delivered. There is 5 months of torment that is coming that is not going to be much fun. I suggest that you have the right seal in your head. If you think that right seal in your head, you're going to have the right seal in your head and not be tithing to his work, what he's putting forth, well, again, you are sorely deceived. And if you think that you are good to go with your servant, even though you will not hearken to his servant that he has sent, you are about ready to find out differently. Look at how that worked out for others in the past with the rebellious hearts, like Korah and the high and lofty that joined in with him. This is what it is. It is what it is, and it's real and it's happening. His wrath is at the door, and the witness against man is proving that they still love the darkness rather than the light. But he is crying out to a people to return to him. He will not put a total end to Jacob's children, as he said back there. Be one of those who will be delivered and choose life.